I wish I was more organized, but this is just the way we're living life. So we're getting the MAKO360 on. Here are some of the parts that are spread out. I've got the traditional risers we're going to go with. One of the things to remember is that there's a long and a short, so you can set them up just before. They're a little off center. So they mention here how this is long, and because of the KTM, we're going to need to run these guys all the way through. Mentioned that in the handlebar video, but I'll show you guys what that means here. And then the other big thing to mention when putting on the Mako is you torque the front two first, and then you torque the back two. Well, let's get these bolts out, and then what we're going to do, we're going to get this guy off, loosen that. We're going to take this clamp off, and then we will be able to put on the Mako. Let's get to it.
If you've been watching Seat Time for a while, you know that I've been running a MAKO360 on my dirt bikes for a very long time. I love how they help with vibration dampening. Not only do I notice it with arm pump, but I also notice it in just how sore I am, not just the day of riding, but of course the day after. If you're looking for a full-on installation video, I do have that out on the channel, and I dive in that video to a lot more of the different options you have when it comes to vibration dampening. And I keep saying dampening, but it's dampening. Damping. Wow. That is very difficult. But if you've got any questions about the MAKO360 and the polymers that I am installing, because the polymers are colored versus their stiffness, right? Their durometer, you depend with that how much damping you're going to get. This is becoming a comedy of errors, and I'm leaving these in there just so y'all have comments to make.
Starting quite the collection of parts taken off, aren't we? Here's what it looks like without the handlebar clamps. You can see the inset where those were sitting in, but then because of these holes is what we're actually going to use. So we've got this kind of a setup here. So we've got these pieces that actually pillow in to this. Those go in there. And then once you get those in there, this guy comes up from underneath. This is a 17 that you're going to use to tighten from the bottom. We're going to use Loctite on this, and then we're going to use the XCGEAR mounting top. So once we get both of these lightly in there, we're finger tight, we're going to tighten it in for the top clamp, and that will center these up, and then we'll tighten these guys down. You want to make sure that you've got this set up correctly and that this isn't off-centered, and we'll get this squared up here in a second. That's a good way, so you can see how it didn't line itself up when I got it in. We're going to get it set in there. Now, see, if we just went with it like this, woo, buddy, that would not be a good way to get this done. So here's what we're going to do. Now we got this square, and we can tighten that bad boy down. According to Lance, Loctite and get it as tight as I can get it. I said, okay. There, now it should be square.
The part now is called the shark bite, and so you want to make sure you put that polymer into the top clamp first, and then you put the shark bite clamp part into the actual polymer there. Lance says that the way when you put the polymers there into the MAKO360, where they're separated doesn't matter. I just like to center them up top so I know where both of them are. And now at this point, you're just centering and getting all of the bolts in. As you tighten these down before you're going to torque them, there's no real pattern, but in the long run, if you're OCD and you like to have a pattern, you can obviously go in some kind of crisscross, whatever works out for you to get yourself tighten this. But it's 12 foot-pounds of torque on these bolts, and then we'll get to the shark bite after we tighten down these on the main clamp. And of course, I had to check my phone, had to take some pictures, had to pick up a drop bolt.
All right, then we got that one more bolt. Pew, 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 pew. Okay, so the handlebars is moved a little bit.
This is that awkward moment in time where you're trying to move the bar, those little tiny millimeters that you think you can actually see the difference of, but in the long run, it probably makes absolutely no difference.
I can show you on the arrestor bar, it looks like the numbers are not lined up well here with the inside, but I'm going to go off of the marks, because the mark from the edge of the line is the same, where that number is closer to the end of that line than that line. So we're going to see if that, hopefully that centers us up well off of those lines, not the numbers. Okay, let's get the torque and get this guy to 12 foot-pounds.
Those of you out there who have an opinion on torque wrenches, I would like to know what you think. I got this digital torque wrench so it was easier to set, but when I hit the number for the torque setting, it just makes the digital noise, right? It just pings, and I don't like the fact that it doesn't actually snap and stop creating tension there on the bolt. And so I'm wondering, are there digital torque wrenches that also have that breaking point in the torque setting when you're there on the bolt? I just don't like the fact that I can still over tighten the bolt because of the fact that it's giving me a beep and not actually stopping. And there we go. The MAKO360 is installed. I did a decent job. When we got out riding, everything was centered and it felt great. I do love this thing. I have gone up to the red polymers and I'm back and forth on that. But again, as they start to break in, I think I'm gonna be fine. And of course, pictures for the gram.
So I was saying about needing to take the plastic off more when I wash the bike, because it's just gonna wind up getting stuff everywhere. So I have to do a little bit better job of that for sure. Boom, there we go. That looks clean too, look at that thing. Oh, that red, that is good looking. Just so you guys know, I like to wrap this around the frame, and this helps the front end a little bit from moving on me. Even though sometimes you can get the front end to stick, this is how I do that. So in case that helps anybody. There it is from the front. Number plate, MAKO360. Looking pretty good. We'll look at it from the back.
Now that we've got the MAKO360 on, we need to get the SXS Skid Plate on. This thing is pretty awesome. It's built off of the factory overlay plate that you'll see on Tristan Hart's bike. And what's cool is it bolts right up. So you could buy the base of this from your local KTM, GasGas, Husqvarna dealer. But what SXS does is they attach their UHMW plate to it, and what that is ultra high molecular weight polyurethane. Yes, guys, who knew you were going to get a chemistry lesson? Well, it's so cool that it's easy to bolt right up. 4 bolts there to the frame, nothing too crazy. It gives full coverage, including covering the linkage. Pretty bitchin'. I will admit, I should have been using a Torx bit for this bolt, but in the long run, I had the 8mm there on the T-handle. I was trying to make it work. I got frustrated, and in the long run, I made it work, but I should have been a little bit smarter. I'm telling you guys that so you can be a little bit smarter. Use the Torx bit for these bolts.
Feel the power!
I totally forgot that I got this. So this is the turbine core with the spark arrestor stuff. So for all the National Enduros, like some of them you need spark arrestors, some of them you don't. But in the long run, I wanted to get this so that I could feel the power. Let's get it on there.
I know. How does one forget that they spent $400? Well, in the long run, I don't really have a good answer for you. I picked it up from Brian's story when we did our first coaching video together, and then it got moved from the van into the garage, and obviously there has been so much more going on trying to get this bike ready for me to get to Sumter, which was early February, that it just slipped my mind. And so I'm glad that I remembered. I didn't need the spark arrestor for the Sumter National Enduro, but I did want to get this on there. No, I don't think that I needed more power or I bought this specifically. I do think that there is a point to get there, but again, with what Brian's story and I are doing on bike setup and balancing the bike is right now, that's what we need to worry about. We do not need to worry about creating more power when I'm in a situation that I can't handle what the bike can deliver as of right now. We will get there, and it will be fun, and obviously we'll make videos and we'll document why we did the things that we did. The best part about this installation is it truly is just a slip-on exhaust. So you take the pieces and parts that you need off of the exhaust that you are removing, you install them on the one that you are then installing, you're replacing the stock with, and it's that simple. You may need to get some different rubber parts if they're worn out. If you're replacing an older stock exhaust, that may not be a bad idea. Maybe some new bolts, but those are things to pay attention to while you're removing the old exhaust to put a new one on, that you may need to look from those and grab them from your dealer.
So here's the insert for when we need to have a spark arrestor. So you're going to put that bad boy in. Now I'm not going to push it all the way in, but that's the concept, right? Get it in there. And once it's in and past this ring, as you can see in there, there's a part of this that has a bend. If you can see that, that part always goes outside. So just like a key ring, you're going to open this up so that you can get a key in, slip it in there, and you're going to slowly get that in there, and then you can use this tab to grab it and pry it out once it's in there to remove the core. Woohoo! And it looks like this is the Powercore 4, so I just said I want the steel one. I think the turbine core is the more expensive one. So, you know, that's the one I got. Steel, baby.
Feel the power!